It's the Guitar Dads. It's the Guitar Dads.
Welcome to the Guitar Dads Podcast, a podcast for guitar dads by guitar dads. This week, finally, we duke it out in the battle of 2v4. Dave and Matt go for a drive, and Slash is back at it again. Is it too much? All this and more coming up on the next Guitar Dads Podcast. Now, here they are, Matt and Dave.
Hello, everybody. I'm Matt.
I'm Dave. What's up?
Welcome back, everybody. Is it too much? That's
Is
definitely.
it too much?
That's definitely.
That's just now a piece of it, right?
It's in the Guitar Dad's lexicon.
Yeah, just in the lexicon.
I also just wanted to say lexicon.
Why do you want to say lexicon?
I don't know. It's just like unicorn, lexicon.
Unicorn?
I don't know. I mean, it's one of those words. So,
okay.
Anyway,
I'm
here
glad
we
you're
are.
Enjoying it.
Here we are, back again, coming at you, back
at it
again. What do we got going on this week, Dave? We're finally going to duke it out on this. Dave's been talking about this since we started this podcast, actually way before we started the podcast, where Dave's been talking about we have to have a debate about Led Zeppelin II versus Led Zeppelin IV. Is there any more Guitar Dad album than those two albums?
I think that's about as good as it gets.
It's probably about as good as it gets. So it's kind of like an impossible task, but Dave and I are up for it, Dave. But, you know,
we are up for it. And you know what? I'm sorry. I'm going to take you down.
Yeah, exactly right. So tell me about what's going on here, Dave. And I don't believe you, but tell me what's going on. You know, we started the YouTube channel. There's a bunch of content we posted on the Instas. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, we should probably update everybody on the socials, right? We got our. So if you're watching on YouTube right now, that's because you're on the Guitar Dads YouTube channel, which is up and running now, and we're going to have a lot more content coming.
Yep.
In the months to come, and we still got the Gram, and we still got Twitter. So look for us at Guitar Dads Pod on Twitter and Instagram. Make sure you check us out on YouTube. Search Guitar Dads, and make sure you hit that subscribe button, smash that like, comment, all that stuff. You know how it goes.
Smash that like button.
Smash that like button.
Yeah, so we did. We put a decent amount of content up this past week. We got our memes up there. Dave and I are into the memes, so you know. And if you have,
we are meme city.
And if you have meme ideas, please send them our way. You know, the latest one that we put up today was the Squire Vlasic vibe. Get yourself in a.
Oh, who doesn't like a good Squire Vlasic vibe? If you like pickles and you like tellies, or strats, this is the way to go.
If you're looking to get yourself in a pickle, pick up the Squire Vlasic vibe. So if you haven't seen the Instagram, you get a little sense of what we're doing here.
Yes.
So check that out. I also put up a demo, Dave. I mean, we're doing demos now. What the hell is going on?
The demo was great.
I put up a demo of the Neural DSP. We spent a lot of time talking about the Neural DSP last week. And I've been downloading some of their plugins. I put up. They just came out with the Soldano SLO plugin, like a model of the classic SLO 100 amp. This thing rips, guys. Check it out. It sounds great. You can do a free download for 14 days. We're not even being paid by Neural DSP. We should be paid by them.
We should be. Yeah.
I know, but it's just that good. And if you are, if you've been home and you're experimenting with home recording, go to Neural DSP. It's not just that one. There's a whole bunch of them, and it's completely free for 14 days. You don't even have to put in a credit card. It's actually pretty awesome. So check it out. Again, we're not even endorsed by these. I wish we were, but we're not.
I like when you don't have to put in a credit card. It makes me feel a little bit better about things.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I'm not going to get screwed.
No, it actually is cool. You basically just download it, and you download this kind of this little app that tracks, your license on it, and it tracks that you're on a free license for 14 days, and then it turns you off after that. But it's pretty good. These things are killer, though. I'll tell you what. Check them out. Check out my demo if you're interested. And the thing about the demo, Dave, is I didn't do any. Well, this is the thing. I don't really know how to do post processing. you know, you know how like YouTubers are always like, there isn't any post processing on this. There wouldn't be any post processing even if I wanted to. So you're literally, so, so you're, so, so you're literally just hearing
full disclosure, right?
Full disclosure. I mean, you're literally just hearing this thing into my recording software. And, and there's no, I didn't even EQ it or anything because I was like, I want you guys to hear it raw. But even then, I don't think I even would EQ it. I don't even really know what I'm doing. I don't know. What would I do? So there you go. And that's how it is. So I think we're good to go.
Is that a disclaimer or is that like an admittance of guilt to the entire, all of our subscribers and listeners?
Hold on, Dave. I'm getting interrupted. What's going on?
Interrupted? Wait a minute.
Scotty, we're recording
a podcast.
This is a Guitar Dad thing. Scotty is interrupting Scotty, what do you need, dude?
See, here we go. Let me just explain to the people while you're dealing with your son.
What do you need, Scotty? Yeah, Dave, talk for a second. What do you need?
This is just the life of a guitar dad, right? You're in your room, you get your guitars, you're listening to, you're listening to your playback, whatever it is, or you're trying to do a little post-production stuff, and in walks your son.
Yeah, so Scotty, you know what he just asked? Like, it's almost bedtime, and he's like, "Can I have Oreos?" And I'm like, "I'm recording a podcast. Of course you can have Oreos."
Yes. The answer is yes.
Anyway, so
you should ask what answer would you like that gets you to close the door fastest?
I know, geez, whatever.
Yes,
whatever you want.
You can have Oreos.
I thought I built this man cave to be like completely isolated from the family, but they still find me, these kids. It's unbelievable.
So just because I've had my man cave for a while, they created this new thing and you put it on the doorknob. It's called a lock.
I know. You know what? I didn't put a lock on this door. Why the hell didn't I do that, guys?
See, you got to put a lock on there. What are you drinking over there?
Oh, I'm on my regular Pinot Noir. I drank a couple of margaritas early, so this is going to be it's Friday night, guys.
So if this podcast goes off the rails, we know what happened.
This is why. We usually record on Thursdays just so we can do whatever we want on Fridays, but we had to push to Friday this week, and so you're getting us a little more boozed up than usual.
That's right. A little bit. Well, you a little bit more boozed up. I'm always boozed up.
I was going to say that's saying a lot for us. So what do you think, Dave?
My Friday anyway.
Do you want to get into this? You want to
Are we going to do this? Are we finally
All right.
going to do this?
How do we do this? Do we have opening arguments? Or okay, let's do opening arguments.
All right.
You have like a 2-minute limit.
All right. What is this, like an impeachment
hearing? Yeah, it's like an impeachment hearing. All right, how about this? I give you.
All right,
how about this? I give you a minute.
All right, you gonna give me a minute, or you're gonna take a minute?
Yeah. We'll do like a minute. You want me to go first?
Sure, go for it.
So the argument
the
here
defendant usually goes first in these cases, right?
Yeah, so let's just lay it out. So we're arguing here is Led Zeppelin II. Well, we'll put it this way. Which album is better, Led Zeppelin II or Led Zeppelin IV? Right now, why did we choose those two albums? Because according to Dave and I, as the guitar dads, we think those are the best for us Zeppelin albums. You could argue there's other great albums. I love them all. I love Physical, Graffiti. I love them all. Well, maybe I don't love In Through the Outdoor as much, but I love them all. And but we really, when it comes down to it, you think about classic Zeppelin. It's 2 and 4 is where you get everything, right? So that's why we honed in on those and we're focusing on those. And Dave and I, for decades, have had arguments over which is the best one. Well, but we haven't really hashed it out. We just got. It's kind of like it's like in Johnny Brasco where he's like, a Lincoln's better than a Cadillac. Forget about it. It's like that. Forget about it.
I believe your minute's up, but go for it. Go ahead.
Forget it.
I like where this is going.
Forget about it. It's like not even worth having the argument. So I mean, I still maintain that Led Zeppelin 4 has more of a little bit of an edge on 2. And for me, what does that come down to? For me, it comes down to more of the classic stuff of Zeppelin that everybody knows Zeppelin for, that I really fell in love with Zeppelin over: Black Dog, Rock and Roll, and of course Stairway. I just don't think you can beat. I just think that's quintessential, and you can't necessarily beat it. I just don't think you can. Dave will have other arguments, but I would say, in terms of quintessential Zeppelin, if and I put it this way, if if you're introducing your kids to Zeppelin, or a niece or a nephew or somebody young that hasn't been exposed to Zeppelin in the past, what would you tell them to listen to? Which album would you give them? For me, it's Led Zeppelin IV.
Wow. Okay. Are you done, Johnny Cochran? Are you going to make me try on the glove next?
And if it doesn't fit...
Okay.
Okay. Okay, you go for it, Dave.
What I would say about that, yes. Let's just be honest with each other here, right? Regardless of which direction you go in, 2 or 4. I mean, we are essentially arguing one album is rated a 10 and the other one is rated like 9.9999999, right? I mean, like exactly. They're pretty much equivalent. Yeah. You really can't have this argument, but the Guitar Dads can, and we will. And I'm gonna win. But what I would say is, while 4 is an amazing album, has a lot of great hits on it, it's kind of essentially as a whole album, it's kind of one direction, whereas 2 has so many little tidbits that if you listen, not only just like track to track, but within the tracks, within the songs, it's got a lot to offer. I mean, so many different. So sonically, it's just so much different than 4, right? I mean, we can't argue that.
No, it's definitely different.
I think if you listen to some of the stuff that they're doing on that album, it was at the time like unlike anything else that anybody else was doing, and I also think that it kind of set the stage for a lot of what they did later on. So, not only just like on their studio albums, but what they were playing live. I mean, I don't know. That's all I really got to say. I think we're going to get into this a little bit more in detail, but that's yeah. So, I mean, these are all very valid points, but I'll go. Let's just get going into 4 here. You look at Led Zeppelin 4, how it starts off, right? Black Dog, probably one of the greatest riffs of all time. But I know that you're going to tell me A Whole Lot of Love is the greatest riff. I'm going to tell you A Whole Lot of Love and or Heartbreaker are the greatest riffs.
Yeah, and those are... This gets very hard to argue over time. But, like, when you think about, like, it goes into rock... It goes into Black Dog, which is just incredible. It goes into rock and roll, which is super high tempo and fun. Then you get the Battle of Evermore that just slows you down a tiny bit, right?
I'm going to stop you right there.
Okay.
If you're listening to this, and I apologize to the Guitar Dads who disagree with me here, but when is the last time you put on the Battle of Evermore and listened to it start to finish?
Come on. It's a great song.
I rest my case.
Yeah.
You just put the glove on.
It's awesome.
And you just showed the jury that it doesn't fit, and there we go. Right?
No. It totally fits. And then it's like the prelude to Stairway. And Stairway, I mean, we just have to talk about Stairway for a little bit, right?
How can you even talk about a song that you're not even allowed to play in a guitar store?
This is the thing. It's a song that is so legendary that it's been banned from guitar store. It's like the quintessential guitar song. And I would argue one of the best, if not the best, guitar solos of all time ever recorded.
I'll give that to you, and I'll even one up you on that. Because if you're very familiar with the song, almost one of the most anticipatory bridges of all time leading into that solo. Like you just know what's coming.
Yeah,
and every time you hear it,
yeah, you know where it's going. Yeah, it's really
where it's going.
But then so then it's Misty Mountain Hop, which is one of my favorites ever. And then it goes into Four Sticks. I mean, Four Sticks is another one. I would call that a deep track, like a B-side. I don't know if it ever was technically a B-side, but I mean, it's cool, right? It's got a flavor to it. And then, then we have the classic Going to California, which is, probably Zeppelin's most famous acoustic song, right? Some might say it's Tangerine. Some might say it's, Babe, I'm gonna leave you, all that stuff, right? But I would say it's going to California. Just amazing. And then we have what is most possibly the greatest like drum track ever on When the Levee Breaks.
Yeah, that okay. I could give you that.
You know what I mean? So like to me, like all that wrapped up into one means it's like perhaps the greatest, if not one of the greatest, rock and roll albums of all time. But let's hear your.
So let me can I recap that?
Yeah, okay.
Can I recap what you just said? Just so I can make sure I'm understanding what you're saying. You think 4 is better than 2 because it contains some really cool songs and a lot of them are your favorites.
Well. Not only my favorites. Yes, true that I think it's a good point. I think it's kind of hard for me to argue because 2 has some of my most favorite songs ever as well. Because I'm just a Zeppelin nut, so it's just the way it is. But when you think about as an album wrapped up, you put it on, you listen to the whole thing. There's only 8 tracks, right? 8 tracks, so it's like you're in, you're out. It's only 42. It's 42. I'm looking at it here, 42. That's all you got. And so and your just head is blown off by the end of it with When the Levee Breaks.
Yeah, but your head is blown off with almost every single album that they put out. I mean,
well, not always, but you're right. But I mean, I don't know, Dave. I think if I had to
argue 3 might be more of a,
like I said, I love 2 for everything that it is. What puts me over the edge is Stairway, and I think you have to put yourself back into your shoes as when you first heard Stairway, right? And when you were first kind of like when it washed over you that first time. Right, and the solo and the whole thing, right? For me, that's what it comes back to. That for me, and it's what gives it the little bit of an edge over too. But what do you got on this?
All right,
what do you got?
I could see that, but
I know you can see it.
Can we talk about in terms of the feel, the sonic, I said earlier that
the sonic
very
value.
Different. I think. Well, no, we talk sonically. They're very different, right? And we can at least admit that.
Yeah, sure.
I think 2 really has that real organic feel to it. I don't want to use the term. I really can't think of any other word right now. But this is not the right term. But 4 almost seems very produced, whereas 2 kind of comes off more organic. More organically to me. It's. And I think that kind of speaks to how it was written. It was written more on tour. It was recorded on tour.
Yep. No,
and it was kind of just like as ideas were coming into their heads, they were just putting them down.
And they
were there.
Yep. No,
so
that's
I
right.
feel like that kind of comes across on that album, and I think as a rock fan, I like that. But it's again we're comparing we're comparing 2 10s.
Yeah, this is a ridiculous comparison.
This is really a ridiculous comparison.
But at the same time. For me, you reminded me, that's what I really liked about 4 is that it is like Jimmy Page really came into his own as a producer and the layering of the guitars and the way that he did the work there, right? It was just, he was doing that on 2 as well, right? But he was just kind of getting going.
Yeah,
he was just kind of getting going with it on 2. And I think by the time
on
4...
on 2, and you read stories about him, and I forget the name of the producer. Of course, I should know this before we recorded this, but you read stories about the 2 of them, Page and the producer, just kind of looking down at essentially hitting buttons and figuring out what stuff was going to sound like and just
it's a good point. I think 4 Page... I think in 2, I think Page is credited as a producer, but let me just Wikipedia it real quick.
Yeah, look that up.
The album, blah, 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 blah.
And while you're looking that up, I'll talk to the people about how Heartbreaker is essentially the best Led Zeppelin song ever written.
Yeah, so Jimmy Page is credited as a producer for 2. And let's see, is he credited as that in 4? I thought he was as well, but maybe, yep. Yeah, so Jimmy Page kind of famously was always credited as the producer, right? He had an engineer that he worked closely with that, they've developed a relationship over time. The engineer's name was Eddie Kramer.
Eddie Kramer, yes, that's it. Yeah.
It was the first, 2 was the first album with Eddie Kramer, who was, he's kind of famously their kind of engineer and did a lot of the studio magic, really cool stuff that he did with Zeppelin, right? So 2 was the first one and he did that. And yeah, so like I think it did. I mean, in my opinion, I think 4 really showed that evolution of Page as a producer and how he was able to do these tracks, right? So anyway,
I think it depends on what you like too. Like 4 is kind of minus a couple songs in there.
Yeah,
4 is just like a hard, like a pounding, like blues rock album from start to finish, except for like I said, a couple tracks. But 2 is just, it's so. There's a lot of bits and pieces to it, and there's a lot of different sounds to it, and a lot of different things that Page was doing, and Plant was doing, and you got the a lot of the instrument, a lot of the like those drum tracks, the drum solos,
Moby Dick
that Bonham was doing, and it's just what we're arguing something that we really can't argue, but I just think that if you look at some of the stuff that came out of 2, I really think that set I think that really set the ball in motion for what Led Zeppelin would eventually become as they went through their careers. I really do.
Sure. No, I mean, look,
and you can hear a lot of that through the rest of their music. That's
totally true. And we got to acknowledge, like, the most amazing thing that I remember growing up listening to classic rock in Boston. Here it's called ZLX, is our classic rock station. I think it still exists, right, Dave? I don't really listen to the radio anymore.
I think it
but
does,
like when we were growing up and we were in high school, we were driving around in our cars, we would have ZLX on. And I just remember Heartbreaker coming on, and you always knew that they were just going to let the album run, and you were always going to get Livin' Lovin' Maid after it. I mean, how many songs are like that? The only other song that's like that in terms of radio play is We Will Rock You and We Are the Champions, like Queen. Right
now, a little bit of unknown information is they've never played Livin'. They never put that in their live set.
Yeah, you know what? I have read
back
that
in the day. I don't know if they've.
Maybe they have now, but that's a really good point, Dave. I have read that in the past that they never played that live, whereas
something like Page wasn't really into the song, which is kind of, and I don't know whether I don't remember the story behind it, but
it's such a rocker.
I don't think they really saw that as their sound, what they really believe themselves to be, which is interesting, because it's to me it's such an iconic song.
Well, like I said, like we grew up listening to it on the radio because Heartbreaker was always played, and then it just went into Livin' Lovin' Maid, and that's just the way it was, Heartbreaker, hot with a purple umbrella and a 60 cent hat.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just.
And we were talking earlier today about the BBC sessions. I think, and that was stuff recorded from earlier in their career, but I think if you hear a lot of the stuff that they were doing live, I think that kind of stuff is exactly what I'm talking about. That's on 2, that kind of organic feel, that like in the moment, that I think you hear that on 2 and you don't hear that on 4 as much.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, hey, it's these aren't bad points, Dave. Obviously, obviously they're not. Ramble.
Obviously they're not.
Ramble On for me is one of my favorites as well, and I love how he talks about Lord of the Rings. In the Ramble On lyrics. I mean, this is amazing. Like the Lemon song, I remember just playing that nonstop because I just thought it was hilarious how he was talking about squeezing my lemon.
Yeah. And that's a Howlin' Wolf thing, right?
Yeah. It was a Howlin' Wolf song.
Almost like a wasn't that like that's not like really a cover, but it is a cover, right? Yeah,
it's like an adaptation, I guess. Yeah. But you're right. Like I just thought that was so amazing. When I was a kid, like listening to that, just like, what's he talking? He's like, squeeze my lemon till the juice.
My lemon.
What's this guy? This is amazing. I mean, come on. This
guy's quite sexual. I don't think I should be listening.
I don't know if I should be listening to this right now.
Explicit lyrics.
But it was just amazing, right? When we talk about like, you think about it though, like at the time when we were discovering this, like middle school, early high school, like rap was really popular, and that and rap was anything but subtle, right? They were just upfront about all like the sexual stuff, whereas this was like they did it with a little more style. right?
Yeah, yes,
And I think
yeah.
that's what we liked about it so much. Like, squeeze
Sex
my
with
lemon
style,
till the
yes.
juice runs down my leg. it's like, it's like, what? This is incredible. So yeah, I mean, look,
Now, truth be told, here we are having this argument. Like, how many? Let's see. I can't even do math in my
not
head.
really
but
an
let's see,
argument.
the first Led Zeppelin album that I ever bought actually was 4, way back, way back in the day. I'm talking like early '90s, maybe '91.
Oh, really? You
I
bought it
remember
before? You
where
bought
it
it
was.
before
I
I
remember
did.
being in a music store and picking up that cassette and playing that.
Yep.
And I knew who Led Zeppelin was, and I had heard some of their music, but I couldn't stop playing that album. It was just unbelievable to me. And that, I think that really, I'll never forget that moment. And listening to that, it was in the summer, and I listened to it all summer long, and it just really defined who I am as a music fan today. You know?
Yeah, man. I agree with you. I mean, look, this isn't much of an argument. This is more of a celebration of these two albums.
Right. So can we finally put this to bed?
Let's put this to bed. Let's just
two is better than 4.
No,
Okay,
no,
good.
no.
There
We're
we
not
go.
going to say that. I don't know. I feel like we say like these are just two of the greatest Guitar Dad albums of all time. If not like some, like, you know, at some point Dave and I will do a top 5 of all time, but you know, it's going to be really hard for us to leave these two albums out. I mean, I would probably leave 2 out, but Dave would, Dave wouldn't, but that's where we're at on this. But
I suspect one of these albums is going to be on that list. But I also wouldn't doubt, as you kind of rack your brain, there wouldn't, you may come to the conclusion that these two are going to be towards the, the 4 and the 5 range on that top 5 list, right?
yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
think of some other unbelievable albums that have been written.
But I also want to bring up something you said to me, like in a text that we had, because Dave and I text quite a bit, although we try to save a lot for the podcast. But Dave said something where was like, "Oh, come on with Stairway to Heaven. When was the last time you listened to that song all the way through?" I listened to it all.
Battle of Evermore.
That
was the Battle of Evermore.
Oh, was it? Oh,
yeah, Battle of Evermore. When was the last time you listened to that song start to finish?
yeah, okay,
Right?
all right. That's kind of a fair point. But I think you're talking about like Stairway to Heaven, or was it like,
Oh, Stairway. No, you never
no,
turned
you
Stairway
can
off
leave it
unless you're working in
on.
the
It's
guitar store.
incredible.
No, I'm not talking about Stairway. I was talking about Battle of Evermore.
Oh, okay,
Go back
sorry.
to your
See, I was
text.
confused.
Check your text out there.
See, I'm confused about the text.
Yeah. Check your text. I was wondering why you replied to me like, "Are you crazy?"
And I think,
listened to that
yeah, maybe I
straight.
just didn't follow the text problem. I think the other thing that I'm remembering about Led Zeppelin 4 is it introduced the cymbals. Like Zoso or Zofo, nobody really knows. The feather, which is Robert Plant.
Right.
The rings, which
You
is
still have that shirt?
Bonham. I do have my Zoso
You
shirt.
should have worn that for the
I
argument.
should have worn that for the argument. This shirt, you guys can't see my shirt on the screen. I have this.
I can't see it. What is
I
it?
have this shirt. This is those of you that know this store will know what it is. It's Rock and Roll Vintage, which is a vintage guitar store in Chicago. Incredible store. If you're in Chicago, you got to go to the Music Exchange, but you should also go to Rock and Roll Vintage and check them out. It is.
I thought you really going to be wearing
a store.
that pedal show shirt.
Fuzz
all
is-
you need is fuzz.
Fuzz is all you need. You know what? We should totally get some That Pedal Show T-shirts.
I think we should. Yeah, let's do. I'm due for some merch.
I definitely need some of their merch because it's incredible, and I'm sure we would help them out by doing so. But yeah, so 4 also introduced the cymbals, which you gotta admit are awesome. So
Yes.
so that's
Well, speaking of that pedal show,
yeah. You
what
want
do
to
we
move
got
on?
next?
All right, we're putting this to bed. Okay, folks, we'll put this to bed.
Yeah, let's
You
put it to
decide.
bed.
Let
They're
us
equal.
know in the comments who
Yeah,
you think
we'd love to hear
won.
from you guys.
Yeah, post it up. We do have this Facebook group as well. We're trying to get off the ground. Go on there and tell us what you think. Which album's better?
Yeah, this is an interesting debate. We'd love to keep it going.
Let's keep it going forever. It's never going to end. All right.
But what's next?
What's next? You want to transition, Dave, into
Let's transition into the next.
into the gear world? Okay, so Slash. Okay, is it too much?
Here we go with the Slash. Wouldn't
Is
be
it-
a conversation with Matt if he wasn't talking Slash.
Is it too much? So
Is
Slash.
it really too much?
So they haven't been officially released yet, as far as I know, but Slash has basically announced on his Instagram and all his socials that he will be releasing the Epiphone Les Paul signature line, which is exactly the same. I don't know if it's exactly the same, but it's extremely similar to his Gibson line, that recently came out in the last couple of years, and it's basically Epiphone versions. So it's Epiphone versions of all these incredible Les Pauls he put out with Gibson. So all the cool colors, the green, which he calls the what's the green called? Anaconda Burst.
Yeah.
The red, which has another name. He also recently put out a gold top, and it's going to be the gold top as well.
Anaconda, which is really Slash's homage to Sir Mix-a-Lot, right?
His Anaconda don't want none.
We don't judge on this show. We love a little Sir Mix-a-Lot.
This is a good point. We were just talking about how, like, we were discovering Zeppelin right around the time all that stuff was popular, and that is true.
That's right.
You know what? Maybe I just Googled it. Epiphone / looks like Sweetwater. No, they don't. Sweetwater does not have it up. They have like this super. Yeah, no, it hasn't been released yet. I'm trying to find the
Which pickups did they put in those things?
I'm trying to find the specs on. You think I would have this stuff up? Again, we're not really prepared. But yeah, so it's basically all of his colors that he has with Gibson, and it's this inspired by Gibson Epiphone line, and it is all the colors. It's the red, it's the Anaconda, it's his like what is it called? Like the Appetite for Destruction color, which is like this what is that color, Dave? It's like a honey burst almost. I think he's calling it the Appetite Burst. I think it's called something like that, right? Also, what was just released by Gibson not that long ago was what he's calling the Victoria Gold Top. That came out in December. They're doing an Epiphone version of that. So, I mean, this is really cool. It's a
really cool looking line.
Yeah.
It really is.
If you're interested
affordable,
yeah, they're probably
level of guitar.
Yeah, if I'm gonna guess, they're probably gonna be in that 800 range, right, for an Epiphone. Which, if we're honest, it's kind of a lot of money for like a Chinese made thing. Maybe it's not China, maybe it's somewhere else in Southeast Asia or something. And I'm not bashing that, but at the same time, like, that's a lot of money for, Southeast Asian made guitar. But, at the same time, they look awesome.
I feel like if Slash is going to put his name on it, it's not going to be, terrible.
Yeah.
It just can't be.
And everybody knows, like, we've been talking about this before, but the Epiphone, the new inspired by Gibson Epiphones, I've picked them up in the stores. They are great. I mean, they play great. They sound good, and I think they will. There's not a lot of specs on this, Dave. I don't think the official specs on this are out at all because it was essentially leaked by Slash on Instagram, right?
Yeah, there's not much information.
Yeah. I can't find a lot of info on this, but you can just see the colors. It's all the colors. The Appetite one has the zebra pickups like you would expect on the Appetite for Destruction thing, which is like a take on his classic. His Les Paul copy, the Derig is the maker that made that for him for the Appetite album. So
yeah, they look incredible. So
it's gonna be cool. But I wanted to ask you though, Dave, because remember like last week I was raving about and it is called Appetite Burst. Oh, November Burst is the other one, which is like a which is like a tobacco burst kind of thing that he's calling the November Burst.
Well, that's interesting. It's a tobacco burst, and it's called November Burst. That's
November. Well, it's not. It's like more like a fire burst, tobacco burst. It's really cool.
But it's not like the guitar he was playing in the November Rain video.
I mean, because that was more of a tobacco burst, right? If I remember correctly.
Was it?
I have
to go back and watch the video.
I mean, I think so, but you have to go back and watch the video. But anyway, so I was raving about this Emily Wolf Epiphone that has like the diamond sound holes that I'm just like really excited about. And then like I remembered why I got rid of my Epiphone Les Paul, and it's because it felt like, well, this is the thing, I didn't know any better, but then when I bought an American Les Paul, I was like, wait a minute, a Gibson. I was like, wait a minute, like the feel on the neck, it just feels like really heavy finish on the neck. I mean, Dave, you had an Epiphone Les Paul. Do you remember this feeling? Like it just feels like almost plasticky, whereas when you pick up a Gibson, because of the nitro, it's just much thinner and better feeling overall. But what do you think about that?
I agree with you. I think there's a little, although the Epiphone that I had, I think that was a great guitar. I feel like, I was giving up a good one, but for the better, because I got the traditional that I have now. But um, I know what you're saying. I don't know. I mean, I feel like, and they probably come a long way in this newer inspired by Gibson line. I think they probably crank it up a few notches, and I think you're probably going to get a better instrument compared to what you got, several years ago.
I'll tell you what, it did feel a little bit better to me, but it still has that heavy poly finish on it. So I don't know, but I think
How much of that is like mental? Though,
yeah,
right?
nah,
Because you're holding like a cheaper instrument.
it's for me, I think it got over the mental and into like reality. But maybe it's all everything's in your head, right? So you make a good point, Dave. It could be that.
No, I think you make a good point in terms of definitely the feel isn't really the same.
Yeah.
But, and I'm trying to remember, because I was like almost three, like it was 2.5 years ago now that I last had that in my hand. So
I remember a distinctive difference. But I will say, like, a lot of people get kind of down on the Epiphones. I think overall, like, if you don't want to spend $2,000 plus for a Les Paul, even new, they're hard to come by a lot under $2,000. I mean, sorry, even used, they're really hard to come by. Nice Les Paul standard under $2,000, even used, is a lot of people are probably like, no, you can get them used easily. It's not that easy to get
It's not that easy.
To get
and
a good
price
one.
points keep going up.
Yeah, because the price points keep going up a little. Well, they actually came down a tiny bit when J.C. Curley in the game took over at Gibson, but they're still like on that 2,400 range. So, and they're still sought after. So, anyway, the thing is, like, maybe you could get one for 1,800, 1,800. That's still a lot of money that not a lot of people want to part with for a guitar. So, like, these Epiphones, like I said, I think they're a great way. If you're really into Les Pauls and you want it, I think they're a good way to go. And you don't have to listen to this snobbery that I'm saying about the thick neck.
Well, it's funny. It's funny you mentioned that, because I may have some on the next Tone Deaf segment, which hopefully we'll bring back next week. I may have some breaking news. Speaking of Epiphone,
breaking news.
Yeah, so we'll get to that at another podcast.
Oh, geez, he's leaving.
But I think I agree with you. I definitely agree with you but I think that what you're talking about, the line that's out now, or the level of Epiphone that's out now, is far superior to what was out even 3 years ago.
Yeah,
3-4 years
I think
ago.
that's right.
So I think you're definitely going to get much more value for your money. The average person, I mean, you and I have had this conversation. I don't think in a vacuum that you can really tell which guitar is what in a real like sound test, right? If you were like in a brief sound test. I'm not talking about you get to hold and play the guitar. I'm just talking about actual,
Yeah, that's so true. I mean, and maybe Rob Chapman, when he puts his blindfold on, he can tell the difference. Which I think he's actually pretty good at telling the difference. I'd like, we should probably do that on our own and see how we do with that. We have to get I don't think neither of us own an Epiphone anymore, but we're gonna have to find like someone who has an Epiphone and try this and try a blindfold challenge.
Figure it out.
Or maybe our local guitar store will let us do it. I don't know. But that's another thing. But yeah, I mean, I think, I think I'm still going to get some kind of ES 335 type guitar that's an Epiphone, because I'm not willing to part with, $2,000+ because I'm ES curious. So
last week you were tele curious, and now you're ES curious.
Yeah, we talked about that last week, that I was ES curious too.
I think I'm a little ES curious myself.
Yeah, I think you are. So that Emily Wolf thing, ooh, that looks so good with the freaking.
Looks pretty good.
Yeah, so I'm still interested in that, like, regardless of the poly finish, Well, I'll tell you what, my Fender American Pro that's behind me here has a poly finish, and the thing feels.
I thought you got the Fender American Amateur.
Yeah. Look for that meme.
Coming out soon.
Barely stays in tune. The Fender American Amateur. When you want to play a bar gig and you can only play a few chords, this is the guitar for you.
This is the guitar that you want, yes.
The Fender American Amateur. And then next year they come out with the American Amateur 2. Yeah, so let's stay tuned for that.
The 2 amateur.
But anyway, I'm excited. We'll see whenever Epiphone gets around to releasing these things, but I'm kind of excited about this, Dave. So,
well, now if you're going to get a new guitar, the question obviously goes to what are you going to plug it into in terms of pedals, which brings us to our next topic.
Very good point. So I thought it'd be fun because we haven't really talked about a lot of the gear that we own. That Dave and I own, and it's kind of like it's cool to talk about your favorite stuff. So we figured we'd talk about that. So I wanted to talk about what we see as our favorite drive pedals that we own, right? That we think that we own, that are tried and true, and we just love them. Everybody has their own favorite drive pedals. I figured it'd be fun if we just tell you what ours are, and we'll just go from there. So Dave, you want to start? You want me to start?
Oh, yeah, go for it.
Okay, so what's on my board now, which I cannot live without, is the JHS Bonsai, which is the tube screamer thing.
That's a good one.
So there's 8 different, is it 8 or is it 9? I think it's 8. 8 different tube screamers kind of within this pedal. There's like a dial, and it's all analog. You know, Josh Smith kind of geniusly wired this thing up, so you know, you switch it and it tweaks the circuit just that much. So you got like your classic like the 808, the 9, the 10, and you have like the JHS modded tube screamer, and you also have the Keeley modded tube screamer, which is one of my I actually alternate between the Keeley modded that he has in there and the JHS modded tube screamers that are in there. He also has like the Boss OD1. He has that in there as well. So he's got all these circuits built into this one pedal, and it's incredible. I cannot live without it. So that's one. That's probably like my favorite.
I remember when that I was at your house when that thing showed up, and at the time I had just used one of my favorite pedals, and we were literally doing an A/B, and it was kind of fun.
Yeah, what was that? Are we going to talk about that pedal?
Well, we'll get into that when I get into mine.
Okay, so I'll give you my second favorite drive pedal. Another one that I would have a hard time living without is the Wampler Tumnus. Right now, I think everybody can probably agree that Wampler, I probably stole one at Dave's, but Wampler is the king of drive pedals in my opinion. I think his drive pedals are absolutely incredible. So if you don't own a Wampler drive pedal of any kind, then you gotta buy. And I would say if you buy one, just buy the Tumnus because it is an incredible pedal. It's a clone or a clone, and it is really, really nice. And it has like the full range frequency, right? You can use it as a clean boost, which I actually love. You know, I love to pair it with. I have to stack it with the tube screamer, where I have the tube screamer, and then I put in the Tumnus after it, and it just is like all this gain, and you put a little delay on, and you get these scream and lead tones, right? So that's awesome. But I also love to put the
that's a great stack.
It is a great stack. I love any tube screamer and clone kind of combo are the way to go, in my opinion. The other thing I love to do with the Tumnus is put it on my clean. So like in my band, we play a lot of like dancey stuff, and I'll put my clean tone in if I want a little bit of boost and just like a little bit of edge or breakup. I kick in the Tumnus. And it just sounds so good. I remember I'll tell you a quick story about that. There was one time where, and I told you guys before, I'm not the lead guitar player. I'm the singer in my band, and then I occasionally play guitar when my guitar player deems it appropriate. I love you, Paul, if you're listening. But I remember like one song we were doing, and I had on this combination where I had this clean tone, and we've talked about this before, where we use the Helix. I use an HX Stomp. He uses a Helix floor. So we had like similar models running. We had like the deluxe reverb, so like just straight up clean tones. And I like kicked on the Tumnus for like a little bit of hair, and he was like, "What are you doing with your tone? It sounds awesome. It sounds so much better than mine." And I was like, "Paul, it's this pedal. You got to do it." And so he doesn't have any pedals. He doesn't have any pedals because he has like the Helix floor. But then I told him, I go, in the Helix there's a clone model, and you should use that. So that's what he did, and he was like so happy with it. So I guess
it really is an amazing pedal.
Yeah,
it really is.
Yeah, like for me,
so what's your third?
Oh geez, my third. I wasn't even prepared for my third, Dave.
You came up with this topic and you're not even prepared.
So my third, so I've covered all the major ones, and this isn't going to be a surprise to you guys. So I've covered, Tube Screamer Classic Circuit, Klon Classic Circuit. The other classic circuit is the Blues Breaker Circuit. And for me, and this is a little bit controversial, for me, I'm going to stick with Wampler on this and go with his Pantheon.
I'm surprised.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, because I do, and look, no offense to JHS. Like I said, my favorite.
I'm surprised. I thought that's where you were going.
You thought I was going for the Morning Glory, Dave?
Yes.
Yeah, so look, there's nothing wrong with the Morning Glory. The Morning Glory is actually an incredible pedal.
Can I take a stab at this? Are you going Pantheon here?
What's that?
Are you going Pantheon?
I said Pantheon. You didn't hear me?
I didn't hear you, no.
Yeah,
I don't listen.
You don't listen to this podcast.
Couldn't hear my headphones.
Absolutely, it's the Pantheon. And the reason I picked the Pantheon over the Morning Glory is because there's just more tweakability with the gain. Even though the Morning Glory does have that switch where you can have a little bit of gain, I like how, in classic Wampler style, he's always got a little bit more gain in there. And it just kind of saturates a little bit more, and it's killer. And I'll actually say the way that I mentioned that I use the Tumnus on the clean tone for most of my dry pedals, I use it into an already dirty amp, right? Like a Marshall-y kind of broken up tone, like a crunch tone, and then I layer stuff on that to get really into the more harder rock stuff. Anyway, so those are my three. Dave, what do you got?
Those are your three. That's a pretty hard list to beat. In fact, I'm only going to beat 2/3 of it.
All right.
Say that again.
It's not a competition, is it?
So, all right, you started with a screamer. I'm going to start with one. I actually, and the one we were talking about is the Green Rhino. Oh. I really like this pedal. I really do. And I think what I like about it is the adjustment, the frequency, the high and low frequency adjustments you can make on it, and it because if you're playing that into a dirty amp and you just want to boost it and you don't want the gain to be crazy, you really have to play around with that a little bit. And I don't know. I've never owned a real tube screamer, so I don't know how that would sound, but I really do like that pedal. Yeah. We've talked about tube screamers enough now.
I've played it. It's a great pedal, and that's way huge, right, Dave?
It's a way huge, and I really and I got a second way huge on my list. But before we get there, I'm gonna go with the Tumnus as well. But nice. You have the Tumnus Mini, and I have the Deluxe.
Oh,
and
that's
I think
right.
The versatility on that is really great, and it's got. Of course, I'm forgetting as I'm trying to look over there and I can't see in the dark over here. With that switch, it's like a hot. I forget the switch that it.
The Deluxe has that.
Yeah, it's got that. Yeah,
that's cool.
Like not that tight to whatever they have. I should know.
Well,
this.
Again, Wampler always has this way to give you a little bit more gain. It's incredible.
Just a little bit more gain. Yeah. It's funny because I was going back and forth between the Green Rhino and the Clarksdale. That's a great pedal as well, but I landed on the Green Rhino. The Tumnus, you were right. You were the one that convinced me to get one. That thing just sounds amazing.
Such a great pedal.
It's one of my favorite things to turn on. I really anytime I just want scream and gain, I keep the gain cranked on that thing. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, experiment with it with a little bit less gain, and it's awesome too. But it sounds great across the spectrum. But yeah, that's actually good. Like an honorable mention is the Clarksdale, which is Wampler's tube screamer circuit, and it's you like that? I don't think I've played that.
I do like it,
yeah.
and I'll play with it as in a lower gain setting, and that's also got like that. I think he calls it like a big and smooth switch, so you can really tighten it up. It's a really great pedal, and both the Tumnus Deluxe and the Clarksdale have 3-band EQ, and it's those he really knows he really does he really puts out great stuff.
He knows his drive pedals. All right, so that's two.
For sure. So the third one, and this might throw you a curveball, I actually really like my Swollen Pickle. As you take a drink, don't spit it out. As I try to tell you about my Swollen Pickle.
Yeah, what's up with the Swollen Pickle? Tell me about it.
It's a fuzz, but it's not just a fuzz.
Yeah.
It is a fuzz. It is a crunch. It is all sorts of stuff.
Oh, cool.
And there is so many along the spectrum of tones you can get from this pedal. It's amazing. And in fact, and I haven't had it that long. I'm still trying to figure out how to get back to the tones I was originally getting out of the thing, and it's frustrating me that I can't get back to it because there's so much you can do with this thing. It can just be you can just put it on as a and get some crunch tones from it. You can get some real deep fuzz tones, like real traditional fuzz, like like fuzz face sounds.
Yep.
and
What about like big muff sounds?
And I'm sorry, not fuzz face, big muff sounds, and yeah, you can get all that.
Yeah, that's a cool pedal.
It's a very cool pedal. There's a lot you can do with it, and it definitely tops my list at 3.
Nice. I actually think Way Huge, like, it's kind of like a sleeper brand that's out there because like they've been around for a while, but they make some killer pedals. I remember like Josh Scott was talking about how he thought their Klon is probably one of the best Klon clones out there. I forget what it's called.
Oh yeah, you're talking about the conspiracy theory?
The conspiracy theory, yeah, exactly right.
Yeah.
Like Josh was raving about that like
he was raving. Yeah.
And maybe it is, I don't know, but I think you're right with those other pedals. The Pickle is obviously a very popular pedal, and so is the Rhino.
It's a great pedal. I mean, like I said, there's so much you can get out of it, and I think I've just really scratched the surface playing around with it.
Well, if I didn't,
but yeah, that's my list of 3.
Nice. If I didn't already have a million drive pedals, maybe I would consider getting a Way Huge pedal.
I think
you think I should? I also
maybe we'll be talking about this on the next Guitar Dads podcast next week when in our tone deaf segment we might have a few things to be talking about.
All right. Well, there's your teaser for next week, everybody.
That was the Guitar Dads podcast. We'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.